This is Faith.
And this is Addie.
And you're listening to Mama Bear Connects. Addie, how are you today?
I'm wonderful. I feel great. How are you?
I feel so good today. Today's a good day.
It is. I woke up and I was like, oh, we're going to have a good day.
I like it. So today we are going to be talking about a very difficult topic. So we just want to make sure that we let anybody know this is going to be a conversation about suicide and the effects of suicide. So if this feels like a hard topic for you, please listen to your mind, your body. If it starts feeling uncomfortable, please go ahead and stop. Or if this is just not going to be the right episode for you to listen to, we understand. We just feel like it is very important for us to share this because it has been something that we have personally dealt with many times. So, so we're going to jump right in. And so Addie and I were just talking yesterday about our listener support and how cool it's been to have people reaching out to us. I have friends that are reaching out to us, and then Addie has had a few friends reach out to her. And one of our favorite quotes is "Be the change you wish to see in the world" by Gandhi. And that's what we're doing right now. We are being that change, Addie. How freaking cool is that?
It's very cool. I love hearing people come to me and they're like, your podcast is so amazing and I appreciate it so much. And I'm just like, oh my goodness, that makes my life amazing and incredible. I love being able to help each other.
Yes. It's just like, it feels so good to know that we're helping people, and that's just the coolest ever. So thank you all for all the support that you're giving us, for the love. Please keep reaching out to us. We love hearing from you guys. We love getting feedback. So we really, really super appreciate all of you that are listening.
And you guys are all amazing.
Totally amazing. So amazing. And some of you I've seen on our Insta story on our Mama Bear Connects Instagram, you guys are doing some brave things. And so I'm just so proud, such a proud Mama Bear. And so shout out to all of you guys that are out there doing brave things and putting yourself out there and being vulnerable, because that's how you heal and that's how you make a difference in your life and in your circle. So great job. So proud. So I am going to start out with a quote by Robin Williams. He says, "I think the saddest people always try their hardest to make people happy because they know what it's like to feel absolutely worthless, and they don't want anyone else to feel like that." And that is so incredibly true. When I read that one broke my heart, because it makes me really sad that Robin Williams, of all people in the whole world, felt that way.
Yeah.
It just breaks my heart, and it speaks so true to my soul, because that's why I think I and Addie reach out and connect with people who are having a hard time, because we don't want people to feel the way that we have. And we understand the way that people are feeling, and on a deeper level than most people, because of our life experience.
And I think it's also really important, because it's important to check up on everyone and make sure that they're doing okay, but especially the people who seem like they're doing fine, because nobody is ever happy all the time. That's not mental health. That's bull crap. That's a quote from Grey's Anatomy. I really like it. And it's like, you got to make sure that people are doing okay. And just because they seem happy does not mean that they are. And just because you don't see what goes on in their life doesn't mean their life is perfect, because they usually hide what the negative things are because they don't want anyone else to see it. It's like Instagram or any other social media thing. They only put out the positive.
Yes.
and the negative is never seen.
Yeah.
So it's very important to get an inside look on people's life.
Yep. And that was one thing. Earlier this year, Addie had a lot of people that would say, your life is so perfect. How is it that you could even be sad? There's no way, and they kept devaluing where Addie was feeling. So then she was really questioning, what's wrong with me? Why my life is so good? Why do I feel this way? And so we really want to encourage people not to use that language with people, because it's very hard for somebody that's in a bad place mentally to hear that, because then it just feeds into the negative self-talk of what is wrong with me.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a lot of frustration for Addie this year, was people just kept telling her, there's nothing wrong in your life. Why do you feel the way you do?
And I didn't even know the answer to that.
No.
And them questioning me didn't help it at all.
Nope. So, be supportive. Use supportive language with your friends and your family and your loved ones, because you don't know what's going on in their life, and you don't know how
they treat themselves already without your negative comments.
Yeah.
And you might not even think that they're negative.
Yeah.
You're just like, oh, but you have a good life, so why would you feel like that? But you saying that could be very hurtful. And if anyone is listening to this and they're struggling mentally, know that your emotion and the way you feel, I'm sure there's been some tough things in your life, and so it's okay to feel like this. Just don't get stuck feeling like this, and don't let it turn into a habit of, you can feel sorry for yourself, just don't
live there.
Yeah, don't live there, because that's not good. But know that your emotions are, what's the word?
Valid.
Yes, they're valid.
Mm-hmm. And give yourself compassion. You are allowed to feel bad. That is okay, because that is an emotion that us humans have to work through. So give yourself compassion and love. Let yourself feel that emotion. Let yourself have a couple of days. That's fine. But like Addie said, don't live there. Don't sit in that place, because it's not going to serve you. It's not going to serve anyone else around you. So we really, really, really have learned very hard lessons this year of not living in that space. And it's hard, and we know how hard it is, because we were there for 4 months?
Yeah.
So that's definitely great advice. Good job.
Thank you.
So I was looking at some articles for some statistics, and in newsweek.com, I found an article that worldwide suicide is the top 20 leading cause of death, which is 800,000 deaths, and that equals out to 1 every 40 seconds, which is heartbreaking. In America, it is the 10th leading cause as of 2017. So I'm sure that the statistics have changed since then. This was just what was in the newsweek.com article that I had found. To follow with that, for every suicide, 135 people suffer with intense grief, or they're otherwise affected either through depression, thoughts of suicide themselves, that kind of stuff, which equals out to 108 million people per year who are affected for just one person taking their lives. Which for that one person in their immediate circle, there's an average of 25 people who make an attempt or have a serious thought of suicide. So it's really scary, and it's really sad, because when that process takes place, then it's a ripple effect. What is it, Doppel?
The Doppler effect.
Doppler effect, Addie learned about in science, that the ripples just kind of
spread out.
And
The
that's
closer
what happens.
people are affected the most.
Mm-hmm. So it's so important, and this is such a huge problem in the world, and I think people need to be aware that talking about it is going to be the thing that helps people know that it is okay for them to feel sad sometimes, and also give them a healthy outlet to come and say, hey, you know, I'm having a problem. Because if you don't talk about it and you just sugarcoat it, then they may not know that you're a safe space, and they will probably not come to you, and that's where the problems start. So earlier this year, we've had, over the last 4 years, I think 4 years, we have lost sorry, I'm counting. 5, 4. I have 4 or 5. I'm trying to think. People by suicide, and for us, majority of them were my husband and my age, or a little bit older than us, but still very close to our family. And so the effect of that trauma for us is very difficult. But at the time, like, Addie was 10, 11 years old when all of this started. Our son was 13, 14. So very young to have to face this kind of trauma. And so Addie, like, I think for Addie, it was easier to work through. It still didn't make sense, right? Like,
yeah, it was hard to understand and comprehend, like, that they were actually gone,
right.
And that it wasn't something like that would just reverse itself, because suicide is so permanent, and it's just so hard to handle.
Yeah. So this year, Addie had lost a friend in her grade that she was very close with at school. And that was really hard for Addie to get through.
When this happened, the days following this, I spent a lot of the time out of class. I was so out of it mentally and emotionally that it was just so hard to get through the day, to get up, to shower. Like, showering was hard, and just daily things, like an everyday thing, was just so tough. And thankfully, I had really good support at school with counselors and friends. And so I spent a lot of the time in the counseling office, but I got work done in there, and they helped me get caught up and just work through everything. And it was really hard, especially since there were a lot of classes that I had with him. And then that's usually when it was hardest. It was going to those classes, because, like, I'd usually go in and look for him, and then it was like, where did he go?
Yeah.
And it was just hard to wrap my mind around that.
Yeah. And that speaks volumes for where your headspace goes when you're in that place.
Yeah.
And Addie went from being a 4.0 student to a 2.0 student in a term. And so being her mom and my husband, also, like, we started very quickly recognizing how opposite her personality got.
Yeah, and this comes in with, like, warning signs.
Yes, and we will definitely be talking about signs for everybody to be watching for. The Addie, like, it just went from happy, goofy, bubbly, fun to never talking to anybody. She would just come home from school and go right to sleep. She just completely withdrew from everyone, which is one of the warning signs to watch for. shame, depression, self-harm. Also, if they're to a point where they have made a plan and made a decision, there could be visible relief because they have an end in sight. Yeah. Which you need, like if you start noticing that, if they start giving away any important possessions, or if they start talking about like really great memories and it's very like reminiscing, kind of like justifying the end. Yeah. Be really careful with that. Be aware of that, because that's where it's real, and that's where it happens.
Yeah, and also there's some people I know who use jokes to cope with it, and it's really hard because they joke about it, and it's hard to know whether or not they're being serious or not. And so I get really concerned. They're like, why are you freaking out?
Yes.
And I'm like, suicide is not funny. Not at all. It's not something to joke about.
No.
At all.
No, and I don't think, like, unless you've been through it, you don't really think about it. Like, for me, it's very triggering to hear people say, I just can't handle this anymore, or like, just take me out and shoot me, or like things like that. Like, they could be saying that, like Addie's saying, like jokingly, but for me, it is like my anxiety shoots up, and it is like scary as all get out, because like that's what we've experienced, that's what we've lived. And so yeah, it's not okay to joke with that stuff. If you're having a hard time, then communicate it. But you don't know who's been affected by suicide, and you have to watch for your language and how you word things. Mm-hmm. So that's a great point, Addie. So
oh wait, one thing.
Yeah.
Like what you're saying, how I went from a 4.0 student to a 2.0 student in the matter of a term. Mm-hmm. I was really hard on myself for that, because with grades in school, I was old. I still am, just not as much, because I give myself some slack now. Mm-hmm. I was a perfectionist with everything. I was like, oh, I have a missing assignment, I need to beat myself up for that. Mm-hmm. And so when I saw my grades failing, I felt so mad at myself. And in English, we wrote a letter to ourselves at the beginning of the year that we would read at the end of the year. And one of the things I wrote in it was finish 8th grade with straight A's. And that was something I definitely did not do. Mm-hmm. And when I read that, I was just so mad at myself. And I was talking to you, and I was like, I can't believe I did that. Past me would be so mad at myself. And then you told me, well, past you didn't go through what you did. Yeah. And that's very important to me. I think about that all the time. Emotions.
Ooh, this is going to be a really hard episode to get through. So yeah. Thank you.
Don't cry, because then I cry. Okay, next topic, next thing.
Whew. So, like I said earlier, ask, don't sugarcoat it. If the person knows that they can come to you without judgment, that's going to be huge for them. Mm-hmm. If they know that it's okay, then that will be huge for them. Asking, how can I help you, will help them not just say, are you okay? That's a yes or no answer.
And most of the time it's a lie.
Yes. So asking open-ended questions like, how can I help? Or what are you feeling right now? Or one thing that we've started with Addie so we can gauge her is
1 to 5.
Yep, 1 to 5. So 1 is, I am not good at all. I don't feel safe with myself, to 5 being, I feel fantastic. Or sometimes there's an 11 in there.
That's with Tyson.
With her boyfriend. So, which I love. I love that she jumps to an 11 whenever she thinks of him, talks about him, is around him, smells his cologne, anything.
Yeah.
Jumps straight to an 11. So, If that's something that you feel like would be beneficial, we definitely recommend that you find a gauging system so that you can talk to your kids and be open with them and ask them, how did school go today? What was your favorite subject? Is there anything going on with your friends that you're worried about? Because I think a lot of Addie's stuff that she was going through wasn't necessarily her own earlier in the year. And that was one question that was super important, because Addie would just word vomit all of the things that her friends were going through, and Addie internalizes a lot of that because she doesn't want people to feel the way that she's felt.
And I put it on myself to make them better, which nobody can do that.
Nope.
Literally nobody can make anyone better other than that person himself.
Yeah. Yep. The other thing is to keep them safe. So clearing away any potential harmful tools, medicine, weapons, knives, string, razors, rope, any sharp objects, anything like that. One thing, when we went to the doctor with Addie, our doctor, who's fantastic, said to Addie, "Do you feel safe with yourself right now?" And Addie was balled up in a ball with her knees up against her chest, and she just shook her head no. And that was where we really realized that she wasn't okay. And we knew that she wasn't doing okay. That's why we were at the doctor's office. But that was the moment we realized that she was not okay.
Yeah. And then later that night we ended up at the emergency room, and I was getting evaluated, and it was can we share a funny story real quick?
Yeah.
So just to lighten the mood a little bit, at the doctor's, they had to test my blood and stuff and make sure I hadn't taken any prescriptions or anything like that. And so, well, first thing, I can't do needles. I will get lightheaded. I will pass out. It's very bad. It's actually kind of funny, though, because I'm like, oh, I need some apple juice or something. But then the other thing, I chugged so much water. Just so much water.
She had to do a urine test.
Yeah, and apple juice and just all types of liquids that would get me to pee. And then finally I was like, oh yes, I need to pee. So I went to the bathroom, and you were in there with me because I didn't know how to do it. And I put the cup under, and then I peed in it. So much came out.
She's like, oh, I'm doing it.
And it was like, and I peed all over the place, and I spilled the cup everywhere. And then the doctor heard me, yay! He's like, oh, is everything okay in there? Yeah, it was pretty funny.
That definitely helped lighten the mood that night. And this was a week after my husband was in the hospital for blood clots in his lungs.
Yes.
So
we were in the emergency room twice in the matter of 1 week.
Yes. And so we had very little sleep. We were already in survival mode. I hadn't eaten that entire day. Yeah, so that was...
We were pretty loopy.
Yeah, we were just surviving at that point.
Yeah. But the staff at the doctor's office, there was one doctor not so great, but the social worker we were talking to was really nice. And our bedside nurse dude,
yes,
he was really funny.
He was so good. Yeah, we had a very good experience at that hospital, so we're grateful for that. But that was one thing, we had to come up with a safety plan for Addie, and so getting the medications down from her view and access, and
putting the knives away.
Our kitchen knives I can't even reach because I'm so short. So just being aware of that potential there, especially when you're in that headspace of, I just don't feel safe right now. It's so important to be there for the person and just be present. Make sure that they recognize that you're there for them, because that's going to give them a sense of connection with somebody, and that will help them to know that there is somebody out there that loves and cares for them. Follow up with them, give them text messages, call, leave messages, again with the connection. Just really ensure that they know that you're there for them and love them and support them in their life, and you want them here. Yeah, so that is kind of a very thing. We're going to be putting some texting hotlines and phone numbers on the Mama Bear Connects website. They are 24-hour lines that you can text or call at any time if you're feeling. They are crisis lines. We have used the texting one ourselves a couple of times and are very grateful for that immediate connection.
They reply so fast.
Yeah, they are right there. As soon as you say, I need help, they're just right there, like so fast. So we will be sharing those. The texting line, is 741-741, and you text the word home, and
in all capitals.
Yes, and they will get back to you very quickly. And then the phone number I will post on our social media so that everybody has access to that, whether it's you or if it's somebody that you love and care about that needs this support line. Please share it. We're going to take a quick break for our sponsor, Anchor.fm. So we'll be right back. All right, we are back. So one thing that I really wanted to talk about, one of my friends who she also has her own amazing podcast. It's Manny versus Mommy. So you guys definitely check that out. It's a mom who's also been through a lot with her Manny, and they go through their co-parenting techniques and stuff together. So it's very good. But one thing that I had seen her post about suicide is trying to take the word committed suicide out because of the connotation that it brings. You don't say that somebody committed a heart attack. Instead, you say, you hear people say they died from a heart attack. Dying by suicide should be the same. That's what is that should be portrayed. So I'm taking this from HuffPost.com also, and if you say the words died by suicide, that sends a message that they had passed away from a mental health issue rather than something that they did to themselves. The language we use reflects our system of values, both conscious and unconscious. Using a judgmental or degrading language prevents us from recognizing mental health problems, seeking help, and providing health. And that was Jacek Debick or something. That's who I'm quoting. And also Dan Reidenberg is the one who said that you don't commit a heart attack. Instead, you hear died from a heart attack. He also said, when attaching the word committed, it further discriminates against those who lost their battle against a disease. So I just really wanted to make sure that people understand the importance of their verbiage, of how they say certain things, because it is so important to really be conscious and aware of how you're communicating when somebody has lost their life to suicide. So I wanted to talk about coping
skills.
Yes, thanks. I was going to say mechanisms. So coping skills. And Addie wanted to talk about healthy coping skills versus unhealthy coping skills.
So what should we start with, unhealthy or healthy?
Whichever you feel. Let's go with the unhealthy first.
Okay, so a lot of people that are dealing with depression, anxiety, PTSD, anything in that circle of mental health issues, usually most of the time they cope is not a healthy way. And there's multiple types of self-harm, like cutting, overeating, not eating, overexercising, alcohol, drugs, just like abusing prescriptions, and
even like sexual relationships, if they're going multiple people, they're not valuing themselves, so that could be a form of self-harm.
Or just hiding away and just not taking care of yourself. And it's really hard, especially because most of those ways to deal with it, even though it's not healthy, they're very permanent, and either it definitely impacts you mentally and physically, whether it's the way you look or scars or sicknesses you get from it. Every time you look back on it, it brings you back to that, and you're like, why did I do that? Or you just start thinking about everything again. Like, so earlier this year, after my friend passed away from suicide, he was really close to me, and so it was very hard. But I was just withdrawing myself a lot, and I had started self-harming. I was cutting, I wasn't eating, I was over-exercising. It was really bad, but now, like, I have scars on my arms and my wrist, and anytime I look down on it, it's hard to realize, like, that's very permanent, and it's just really hard to look at sometimes because, I don't know, it's just really hard.
Well, it brings back those feelings of where you were.
Yeah.
And that's powerful, because you know that you didn't want to do that to yourself, but in the same sense, you wanted to release that pain somehow.
Yeah. And when you're in that state of mind, it's very hard to control yourself. Like, most of the time, I didn't even remember doing it.
Yeah. And that is where, as parents, you need to be aware of your kids. If they're in the bathroom for way too long, or if they're hiding out in their rooms, or if they're wandering away and you don't know where they're going, and that's not typical of them.
Even just constantly wearing hoodies or sweatshirts, even in hot weather.
Yes. Yeah.
Or like even pants all the time, because some people self-harm on their legs or stomach.
Yes. Yeah. And the thing that's very scary with cutting is, especially as a child, like, you don't know how deep is too deep, you know, and you could just have the intention of scarring yourself, but then accidentally cut too deep, and that's where
an emergency happens.
So that's very important, and you're very brave for being open and vulnerable for that, because I know that that's not something that people want to blast out there and share with, but we feel like being open and vulnerable is our power. It's our superpower, and we really feel like being there for people so that they know that they're not alone in how they're feeling is huge. And I'm very proud of you.
Thank you.
Like, really, I am so proud of you. Truly.
So, those are some unhealthy coping skills. Well, coping ways, because they're not skills.
No.
And some healthy ways. I'll be quick with this because they're easy to get through. A good amount of exercise. Keep yourself fit and healthy, and exercise releases dopamine in your brain. It makes you feel good, and you're like, dang, I'm so I'm so tough, I'm so strong, look at me, I'm awesome. And just getting out with friends, with people that you know are good for you, and painting, drawing, listening to music, writing, playing games. But yeah, just do things you enjoy and that make you feel good, that are healthy things to do. Even like cooking or singing, just anything very fun that you enjoy doing.
And really, sometimes you have to force it.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's sometimes not even like you know that you love it. Like for me, painting is something that I just like so enjoy, and it's so peaceful for me. But during the last few months that we've had really a hard time, painting got so far stuck to the wayside that I just kind of forgot how much it means to me and how much it really helps me and heals me. So even if you're not feeling up to doing something, kind of force it. Be aware of your habits. For me, I would come home from work and I would sit on the couch and zone out for 3 or 4 hours and then go to bed. And zone out, I mean, I would sit on my phone for 3 to 4 hours and do nothing. I made a pact with myself this year that I wasn't going to drink any soda or alcohol for a year. And I'm really grateful that I did that, because I know for a fact that I would have been self-medicating with alcohol every single day.
Yeah. You'd come home and you'd numb yourself out with a drink.
Every day. And then I wouldn't be present for Addie and my husband and our son. And that wouldn't have helped serve anybody. And it would have made the situation so much worse. So I'm really grateful that I made that pact for myself.
Yeah.
Who knew that that was going to be so important. But
and you're still going strong.
I am so proud of myself.
Me too. You're doing so good.
Even though I think about it all the time still. But
you're doing good.
I'm doing great. I don't really care for soda at all anymore, but every now and again I still, like, if I'm having a stressful day, I think, oh, I really want to drink. So I'm glad that I have the self-awareness that I know it's not going to serve me.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so healthy versus unhealthy, that's, a very raw, open, vulnerable view of what healthy and unhealthy coping skills are.
Mm-hmm.
So my husband was in the military, and he was deployed or out in the field training 6 out of 8 years of his military career. And so as you can imagine, he spent 26 months total in Iraq, and in that time had lost very close friends, had rockets shot in his camp. He had very difficult, I don't know how much he wants me to share, but he was in a lot of life-threatening situations there. So as you can imagine, PTSD is something that we deal with on a daily basis with him. And not only is it something that affects him, but it affects us as a family when we go out and there's loud noises, or
the 4th of July.
Yeah, 4th of July is really difficult for our family. New Year's Eve, things like that. And so hyper-awareness is a side symptom of PTSD for, it's called secondary PTSD. So people who are in close proximity of the person affected by PTSD, and PTSD can affect anybody. If you've been through sexual trauma, if you've been through anything, our experiences with military-related PTSD. So that's what we generally talk about, what we've gone through. But we are very hyper aware of if a baby is screaming at a restaurant, if a parent is yelling at their kid, if there's a loud bang that came from nowhere. We were at a restaurant one year in Las Vegas, and there was a huge explosion that was part of the theatrics, and immediately we didn't know, we had no idea that was a thing, and immediately I could feel his energy just completely shift, and he had his hands covering his face. And so it's heartbreaking to watch and to be a part of that. And my husband had wrote a paper in his English class a couple of years ago that he is okay with me sharing. So I'm going to read this just so you can kind of have an idea of where he is. He wrote in a post that he made, if you're dealing with PTSD, just know that you're not alone, and there are a lot of us going through similar trials as you. You just need to reach out. If you know someone with PTSD, hopefully this sheds some light on what they may be going through and gives you an idea on how you can support them. So he has named this damaged goods. Post-traumatic stress is a curse upon those that are unfortunate to have been through terrible experiences. A curse that no matter how many pills you're prescribed or group therapy sessions you sit through, you will have with you for the rest of your time. PTSD is a constant voice in your head telling you you are no good. You used to be confident and a happy person, but now you're just a shell of your former self. You may look the same on the outside, but the inside you are in constant torment. You wear the mask of happiness around other people, but you know it's just a facade, a smoke screen that doesn't reveal your true feelings. Silence can be deafening because it allows your mind to wander into the darkest areas. So, to quiet the silence, you fill the air with white noise or music. PTSD is an isolation from the normal world. You're always hiding in the safety of your own home, not wanting to put yourself in situations you don't have control. This isolation and alienation only makes everything worse. When you go out and try to feel like a normal person, you can't sit. You can't. You sit back with your... You can't sit with your back to the exit, and you size up everyone in the area, constantly scanning for potential threats. You envision worst-case scenarios, and then your mind wanders to what you would do if someone presented a gun or a knife and tried to take your life. Before you know it, you're looking at the guy across the table from you, and you imagine he is the one that pulls a knife on you and tries to end you. He comes at you swinging a knife in your direction. Sure, you may get stabbed a couple of times, but you're going to kill him before he can kill you. You imagine catching his arm and snapping the bone, eventually bringing the knife back to his face. You slit his throat with a knife or sink the knife deep in his eye socket. The choice is yours, whatever it takes to survive. You snap back to reality as the waitress asks you what you'll be drinking but with your meal. By the time she comes back with your drink, you have killed all the threats in the room. You feel like a functioning psychopath. The anxiety of being in a constant heightened state of awareness is exhausting, so you retreat back to the safety of your home. PTSD is not being able to sleep at night because when you close your eyes, you are back in the places that caused all the anguish, reliving every moment. With your eyes closed, it gives your mind free rein to do what it wants and replay horrible scenes over and over. Once you do fall asleep, any sounds you hear wake you up and get your heart racing, making it impossible to fall back asleep anytime soon. PTSD is an unexplainable, explosive anger. Every little thing sets you off. You try your best not to express that anger, but as you hold it in, it just reminds you how messed up you are. Your shrink tells you the anger stems from needing explosive anger to make it through the tough situations you've been exposed to. If that were true, then what does your son spilling his cereal have to do with what you've been through? PTSD is constant feelings of inadequacy that fuel your thoughts. Nothing physically is wrong with you, so why are you so weak? You made it home with all your body parts. Stop whining about everything and suck it up and drive on. but you aren't able to without the voices in your head telling you that you don't deserve to be here. PTSD is feeling that everyone would be better off without you. Maybe then they won't be disappointed in you. You feel that if you were to have died during battle, that you would be remembered as a hero, but instead you're here and your family has to walk in eggshells. Maybe if you end your life, you won't let anyone else down. So you start thinking about how you will take your own life. You have to make sure that if you do it, you keep it clean. You don't want to make your family have to find you with a hole in your face and have your wife scrub your brains off the bathroom wall. Plus, you'll want to make sure that you can have an open casket funeral. You don't want to swerve into oncoming traffic because you don't want to hurt any innocent people just because your brain is so broken. What good would killing yourself do? All it would do is be a huge letdown for your family, but it would be the last time you had to let them down. PTSD is having a wife that worries when she doesn't hear from you. Every couple of hours. It's not that she doesn't trust you and thinks you're off with someone else. She just worries that today was the day you took your life and won't be coming home to her. PTSD is not being able to type these words without being overcome with emotion. Good luck trying to read this stuff out loud. If you say these words out loud, then they become fact, and everyone will know your skeletons. Do the experts say that you need to vocalize your thoughts so you can heal? PTSD is being able to relate to your brothers and sisters that have been through similar situations as you. It is about not giving up and becoming one of the 22 veterans that take their lives every day. It is about being there for your family and being a beacon of hope for someone that is going through the same thing you are. PTSD is a badge of perseverance. So as you can see and hear, PTSD is a very difficult thing to live through every day. For anybody that is struggling with any mental health, please reach out. Please reach out to somebody you know that you can trust. Parents, be aware of your children. Don't let them pass you by without acknowledging that they could be going through something very hard. Listen to your kids. Be there for your kids. Love your kids. Because they need you. They need your love. They need your support. They don't need your judgment. They don't need negativity because they get enough of it everywhere they go, whether it's in their mind or outside from school. you know anybody that's been in the military or has been in an abuse situation, know that they could be suffering from PTSD, and be compassionate and loving towards them. To any of you kids that are listening to this, it is okay for you to be vulnerable and reach out for help. It is okay for you to go to your counselor. It is okay for you to have to take medicine. It is okay for you to not feel okay sometimes. Love yourself enough to be okay with that. Addie and I love each and every one of you listeners more than we can even express. We are grateful for this opportunity to be open and vulnerable and allow people to see the importance of what suicide really does entail. We appreciate you guys listening, supporting us, loving us. If you need anything, please message us on our social media. We are happy to help direct you in a right direction.
And just know that you aren't a burden, and that you matter, and you're important, and you're loved, and you're worth so much more than you may think. Because even though you feel worthless sometimes, or you don't feel okay, that's okay, because like what my mom said, it's okay not to be okay. And just know that I love you, and that my mom loves you, and you're loved by so many people.
And there's another quote that I want to bring up. Failure can become our most powerful path to learning if we are willing to choose courage over comfort. That's Brene Brown. And then there was one more that I loved that I needed to read. This was also Brene Brown. The most dangerous stories we make up are the narratives that diminish our inherent worthiness. We must reclaim the truth about our lovability, divinity, and creativity. And that was also Brene Brown. And I just loved that one. Thank you guys for listening. If you got through this whole thing, we really appreciate it. We feel like this was something that really needed to be said. It's Suicide Prevention Month this month, and we just felt like it was really important to share. Thank you all so much. Have a good night.
And remember that everything is gonna be okay.
It's gonna be all right.
Everything is gonna be all right. Bye.
See ya.